Hello and welcome to today's episode of Health University, where I have the good fortune of greeting and meeting and introducing you to my colleague and friend and neighbor, Susan Bratton. Susan is the intimacy expert to millions. I'm going to read your bio because it's so robust. She's a champion and advocate for all those who desire intimacy and passion in their whole life. And we know that in the conversation of fertility, this can be an area where it can become a little sidetracked. Susan's created hundreds of techniques that transform having sex into making love. She's the world's most respected sexual biohacker. I love that phrase. She is co-founder and CEO of two companies, one Personal Life Media Inc., and it is the publisher of the Better Lover brand of heart-connected lovemaking techniques, communication skills, and sexual regeneration therapies. Hooray. And secondly, the 20 LLC, which manufactures organic and botanical supplements to enhance sexual vitality. Susan's a best-selling author and publisher of, get this, 44 books and programs, including Sexual Soulmates, Relationship Magic, Revive Her Drive, Ravish Him, Steamy Sex Ed, The Passion Patch, Hormone Balancing, and Hot to Trot. The conversation we're having here today, which, as I suggested, is so important for couples and individuals going through a fertility challenge or trying to conceive, is how to keep intimacy alive and well through any fertility struggles. So, welcome, Susan. Thank you for joining us. If I've missed anything in the intro, please feel free to ad lib.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you again. You're looking as beautiful as always,
Thank
and it's the Susan and Susan show.
you. It is. We
That's
won't
so
call it the
sweet.
Susan Squared show.
There you go. Although we're the opposite of square.
We sure are. That's
But we
right.
did meet wearing hippie attire.
This is true. This is true. We met at a wonderful conference that occurs each year, and this year's theme was You Say You Want a Revolution. And
I
so we're
do.
all in 60s revolution, peacenik kind of garb, and it was so much fun.
It
So much
was.
fun. And really you kind of hit it off and realize that we have a lot in common that is
Yeah.
important for the listening audience to share. So
Yeah.
if you're ready, let's just get right into it.
I'm ready to
Yeah,
go. I want to provide
fantastic.
as many solutions, ideas, and possibilities for what I think is a very, very challenging time, not just in our lives, but especially in our sex lives
Mhm.
around fertility. And it can be so hard. One of my very best friends never had sex with her husband again after they conceived their son.
Mm.
They stayed married, but they
That
never had
crushes
sex
me.
again. She said, Suze, it ruined it for me.
Mm.
We had it, it became so transactional that I just could never do it again.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it broke my heart.
Hmm.
And I really want to just provide as many ideas and possibilities as I can for your fans and followers. And, take what you can from the conversation today. There's going to be something in here for you. And
Hmm.
as I told Susan, I'll probably leave you a few links
Hmm.
where I can touch on some things, but then you might want to dig deeper.
Hmm.
And everything I'll give you will be something you can have for free. I have a lot of things that I think make a big difference for people in their love lives, their intimate wellness. So we don't get a lot of sex education. And
Yeah.
then when we hit these challenging times around fertility, it exacerbates problems that may have already existed and creates new ones.
Yeah.
So how do you get through it? That's the question for today, and I'm ready to go. You ask me
Yeah.
where you want to start, and
Okay, well
let's do it.
let's start about stress. A
Yeah.
fertility, a couple will come together,
Yeah.
have their sense of sexual self, and sometimes that already comes with a little bit of wounding, but
Yeah.
they're in a relationship, they're being intimate, and then they want to get pregnant and they don't, and that elevates stress.
Mhm.
How does that, in your experience and support of people, affect their ability to perform the sexual intercourse act, but more importantly, or as importantly, experience themselves still in each other as sexual beings?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things to say first off about stress, and that is that intimacy can be such a stress reliever for
Mhm.
both parties that it's worth fighting for it to
Mhm.
be pleasurable throughout the process.
Mhm.
So I want to give as many ideas for how to make it pleasurable as I can, because
Yeah.
I think that's what'll keep you doing it without feeling like it's such a chore. You
Yeah.
know, when there's a ticking clock, it just makes it
Mhm.
harder.
When we're when
When
we're saying
you
when we're saying, "Oh, I'm ovulating now, honey, let's
Yes,
go."
exactly.
That's not intimacy. I mean, it's important for the moment, but it is
Yeah.
not in lieu of one's intimacy experience. So great.
That
Let's hear it.
Yeah, how do you keep out of the task mindset and back into the connection
Mhm.
mindset? And one of the things that I want to say about sex, the word sex, is that when I say that word, most people think intercourse. That's what sex is. But sex is, and I don't like that model of foreplay and sex, because
Mhm.
then it's like foreplay is the appetizer and intercourse is the main event. And I think that for women, especially, we need as much foreplay as intercourse.
Right.
And so do our partners.
Indeed.
They're just testosterone dominant. They need release more often. They're masturbating more frequently.
Mhm.
They're testosterone dominant instead of estrogen dominant. And
Mhm.
so they're like, I need this anyway. Where we don't
Mhm.
feel that way as much as our
Right.
male bodied partners do. And so the whole world has conspired against us as women sexually with regard to how we look at intimacy and how we look at sex and how much focus we put on intercourse, which leaves all of the other things that are what we as women in female bodies need to become aroused. And
Mhm.
that is
Let's hear
the
it.
holding and being held, the kissing, the stroking, the petting and the patting, the this being squeezed and
Mhm.
comforted,
Mhm.
kissing,
Yeah.
even just pecks on the cheek, kisses on our eyelids, the stroking of our hair, all of
Mhm.
those reassuring and activities that are kind of a way of adoration
Yeah.
of our humanity. We also have manual pleasuring,
Mhm.
which frankly, I think generally gets tossed by the wayside
Yeah.
when couples go straight to intercourse.
Mhm.
Perhaps they do some oral pleasuring,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
many women have embarrassment about their bodies, their genitals. They have some discomfort around that, but it's such a lovely part of intimate pleasure
Mhm.
that anything that you can do to level the playing field, where instead of being in the mind that, all right, I have to have sex, that means intercourse, I need that semen in me, let's
Mhm.
go. Every
Mhm.
time you just focus on direct to intercourse and you skip the other steps,
Mhm.
you're adding to your stress,
Mhm.
you're lowering your pleasure, you're shortcutting and truncating the amount of arousal
Yeah.
that you can experience, because arousal begins in relaxation.
Yeah.
So if I leave you with anything today, it's, oh, I got to slow my roll
Yeah.
and my partner's roll.
Yeah.
I got to take this time to actually just slow everything down. Because if we end up like my friend,
Yeah.
where we never have sex again because all we did was look at this thing like a transaction,
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
just shortchanging the entire
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And add to that that it's more likely you'll conceive if you are relaxed.
That's
If that's your justification for it, take it.
right.
Whatever you need
Yeah.
to slow down and slow your partner down,
Yeah.
do it. And
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, our bodies
good.
are physically and physiologically designed to support the conception process when all the I'm gonna when all the threads, the components, the strings of the symphony are in play. That as you say, the relaxation of touch and connection, the
Mm.
ability to truly lubricate, the ability
Yes,
to have an orgasm that is not the rub 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 orgasm, but the orgasm that
right.
really does lift our bodies from the inside out, which will lift that sperm right on in to meet the egg. I mean, it truly is miraculously beautiful when we really allow it to all happen as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. And
Hmm.
you made a very good point about the lift, the way
Hmm.
that the uterus lifts up the cervix when you finally are truly aroused and has this ability to kind of suck that semen
Hmm.
into the cervix.
Hmm.
Um, that's a very important part of this.
Hmm.
The lifting, the expansion, the opening. One of the things that most people don't understand about male and female arousal patterns is that men have something called fast acting hemodynamics, blood
Hmm.
flow.
Yeah.
The blood flows into the penis very quickly because it needs to flow in quickly and lock off so that he can achieve an erection.
Hmm.
So he's got all this testosterone. He's got nighttime erections. He wakes up with morning wood. He looks at
Hmm.
your breasts and gets excited. He's
Hmm.
ready to go. Not that he doesn't want slow and pleasurable sex. Not that he doesn't want a heart connection. He does.
Hmm.
He needs foreplay. He needs to know he's desired. He needs to know you respect him, that he's good in bed, that he's a person that you love to be in pleasure with. He needs all those things, but his body works a lot faster than yours to get
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
The arousal pattern of a woman is more 20 to 30 minutes.
Hmm.
And when I say that, I can hear your eyes roll. Oh my God, 20 or 30 minutes. I don't have that much time. But you do.
Yeah.
You do have that much time. You what is more important than pleasurable, intimate joy with your partner? It's not
Hmm.
watching the latest special ops lioness, although I am
Yeah.
enjoying that right now.
That's very funny. I have a question for you, Susan, because
I know.
I want to
Yeah,
I want to just have the listeners think for a second when, if it takes a female body 20 to 30 minutes to get,
yeah,
properly, I don't like to wear that word properly, but to get amply, abundantly aroused,
yeah.
I'm thinking she can begin that process herself. So, if there's a concern for
Mm.
the time that they might have to be able to dedicate to sort of their act of intimacy, it is that self-love and self-care that brings her to the moment more ready. Would you say?
Yes,
Mm.
yes. Definitely. And there are some things she can do, but there are also things you can do together. And I did want to finish what I was saying about
Oh,
female
excuse me.
arousal too. So I will
Mm.
circle back to your question if I may. No
Yeah.
problem at all. But I didn't want to leave that stone unturned because it is so vital.
Hmm.
And that is that if you think about your partner's penis, about 50% of it sticks out of his body, the part you can see, and about another 40, 50% goes in and down toward his testicles. And you can imagine it that it looks like a banana.
Hmm.
And all of the inside of his penis is primarily made up of erectile or spongy tissue where the blood flows in and
Hmm.
achieves an erection for him. Imagine if I could take all the skin, if I could peel that banana and take the fruit out, and I could turn it into like a teardrop, a circle that comes to a point at the top with a hole in the middle. And I would take the skin, if you will, off your vulva and open it up. And I would put that right in there with it wrapped around your vagina. And the little point at the top would come to your clitoral shaft and tip.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's your erectile tissue, but
Exactly.
it's in a lot of little nooks and crannies. So it's the clitoris, the urethral sponge, the perineal sponge, and the clitoris itself is a shaft and a tip and a hood, arms and legs.
Hmm.
And so all those nooks and crannies, they don't have that fast acting blood flow that your husband's penis has.
Hmm.
So no matter how much you rush to intercourse, it takes your body a good 20 minutes if you're used to frequent arousal, 30
Mhm.
minutes if you go for some time between frequent
Mhm.
arousal.
Mhm.
And I want to tell you how to activate those systems. First, I'll
Okay.
do it with your partner, and then I'll give you what you asked, Susan, which is how can you do it yourself as well?
Mhm.
So, the way to you think about all of that erectile tissue. If it is flaccid, if it is not full of blood, not plumped up, then it has diminished surface area.
Yeah.
When it's full of blood, it's all plumped up and it has more surface area to send more signals of pleasure to your brain.
Mhm.
So, how do you get it plumped up so that you're ready for intercourse and it can become orgasmic, ecstatic, amply ready
Mhm.
for you to create life?
Mhm.
You do that through both everted, through inside and outside stimulation. Just make it
Mhm.
simple. Inside and outside stimulation. The inside stimulation is the blood flowing right down into your pelvic bowl. How you get that going, and this is just like breastfeeding, there's a letdown. When
Mhm.
you end up, if you decide to breastfeed or if you have breastfed and you decide to sit down in the rocker and you gather the baby, you have to take a minute. You kind of have to go, and then you can feel the milk letting down into your breast tissue.
Mhm.
It's exactly the same response with the blood flow to your pelvis. The relaxation lets the blood flow down. That's what lubricates the vaginal canal, which is not really a canal, it's more like a big chamber.
Mhm.
And it's a muscle, but it's not a gland. It's not self-lubricating. The way that it works is the blood flows into your pelvic bowl and seeps through the vaginal mucosal lining and begins the wetting process.
Mhm.
So while the blood is seeping into all those nooks and crannies, it's also seeping lubrication into
Mhm.
the vagina. It's
Mhm.
also swelling the clitoral shaft and
Mhm.
tip, the arms, the legs,
Mhm.
all the different parts.
Mhm.
And if you try to have penetration before that happens, you're putting another brick in the wall of your future
Mhm.
sexless marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, you are hurting your own body by
Mhm.
rushing it.
Mhm.
And even now, I'm 63, Suits, and even now, when we begin making love, and mostly we start with a yoni massage, and I want to talk about that.
Mhm.
I still sometimes get impatient with myself, and I know better.
Yeah.
So, sex is a mindfulness practice where you do have to
Mm. I like.
honor your humanity and honor your biology and honor your genital structures and the way they work. You can't do anything about short circuiting it, or you're short circuiting your own relationship, your own sex life, your own pleasure. So you really have to stand for allowing yourself the time to get really ready for
Mm.
penetration. This is
Beautiful.
removing the transactional and creating the spaciousness to let yourself get there.
Mhm.
And you have an opportunity at this moment in time to do that because your husband wants to do a good job.
Yeah.
He wants to help you achieve your pregnancy. And
Mhm.
so, if this is the condition of what it is, he'll start doing it. And then you have that practice for the rest of your life. So, you've got an inside edge in this
Yeah.
moment to
Yeah.
kind of be like, okay, my doctor told me this is what I need to do. And
Mhm.
he will learn that
Yeah.
it is so much more beneficial because it's so much more pleasurable for you.
Well, and
Here's
so much more
another.
beneficial for, for the longevity, as you say, of the relationship, right? Then you're discussing and talking and sharing and experiencing more than the daily checklist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not platonic, you're intimate
Yeah.
because you're close.
Yeah.
You're generating all that oxytocin and lowering your cortisol and
Mhm.
improving nighttime sleep and making your life better and
Mhm.
activating your immune system and
Mhm.
rebooting your nervous system and having better vascularization and
Yeah.
oxygenating your brain. And I mean,
Mhm.
there is such a long laundry list of reasons why
Mm.
pleasurable orgasmic sex is so healthy for you that extending your sex span extends your health span.
I love that. Thank Thank you for sharing in our conversation here at Health University. One of the ways in which we help people improve their fertility is through our 5-element fertility quiz. Please click on the link below at yourfertilityquiz.com and take this short quiz. You'll receive a free report that includes easy to implement ideas to improve your whole health and your fertile health. Now let's return to our topic in today's episode.
But let's go back to the inside out and the outside in.
Yes.
Arousal. Because kissing starts that blood flow. And it doesn't have to be deep French kissing. It can be, he kisses your eyelids, he kisses your cheek, he kisses your neck, you kiss on the lips. You're not immediately ready to just jump on and go for it. Breast pleasuring.
Yeah.
And a lot of women have not a love relationship with their breasts. But your breasts are a seat of incredible pleasure. Your breasts, your nipples, your chest, your sternum, your neck. It's all so sensitive, and it loves to be touched well.
Right.
And it's calming, and it's co-regulating for both of you. And nipple-gasms, which are a learned skill, if you've never had one, just start playing with your breasts, letting your partner play with your breasts. Learn your pleasure pathways and activate them, because all of that breast play is going to trigger your oxytocin, your letdown, the prolactin, the blood flow. It's going to engorge your genitals, and that's going to plump up all your structures so that you get the lift we're talking about, that expansion that loves to pull that delicious, healthy semen into you. That's another thing that's really good for you is semen.
Yeah.
I mean, luteinizing hormones and serotonin and testosterone and spermidine, putrescine, spermine. Did I say testosterone? That's my favorite one. I probably said it twice because I love it so much.
Okay.
It gives you,
it increases
enough. I can't say it enough. It increases your sex drive. Why wouldn't you want it? Zinc for cognitive function. It's the semen. We're very symbiotic. So the semen is very good for us. And our vaginal mucosal lining is a spongy lining that
we'll just absorb.
Sucks it up and brings it right into your bloodstream.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, this is amazing.
So you can, I was just going to say, you can do external yoni massage. That's the other part where you lay down, butterfly your legs open, prop up underneath your knees with pillows, and get a little blanket and pull it over the top of you, and have your partner pleasure your yoni. Yoni, Y-O-N-I, is a tantric lovemaking word for the female genital system. It's not the vagina, which is the inside. It's not the vulva, which is the outside. It's all of our parts and the spiritual connection to ourselves, our lover, and a source. So the yoni is such a beautiful thing, and yoni massage helps us accelerate that blood flow. And a lot of women think, sex is about hormones. Oh, my hormones are low, my libido is low. But for the most part, it's actually a hemodynamic experience of blood flow. That was what we really need.
Right. And if the hormones are low, in reverse, the increasing of the blood flow and the increasing of the lubrication can increase hormonal activity. So it's not about hormone replacement. It's about, as you say, getting into the symbiosis, the symphony of all of our systems.
Yes. There is a tool that I like to recommend. Let me show it to you. I've got it right here. Let me dig it out of my little kit here. I'll describe them for those listening to audio. This is, I have these. So here's your first link.
Yes.
Orgasmiccrosstraining.com has the links to what I'm about to describe on it.
Okay.
And I will give you that
orgasmic cross training, not X training, but crosstraining.com.
Orgasmiccrosstraining.com.
Okay.
And what I'm holding up is called, believe it or not, it has the simplest name. It's called the Vibe. And the other one that I like is called the Pulse Queen. You'll see both of them on that page. You can click and you can go and find them. This is the easiest way for me to to tell you how to find them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is essentially kind of like a lay on vulva massage tool.
Mm.
And you can give this to your partner, but this is where you can also do this yourself
Yeah.
to engorge all of the outer labia, the inner labia, the clitoral hood, shaft, tip, vestibule. You just rub this on you. And the vibe I like because it's quiet,
Mm-hmm.
very quiet. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
other kids in the house or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
you live in community or what you just get annoyed by noisy toys.
Mm-hmm.
This is a whisper quiet product. The
Beautiful.
Pulse Queen, which is also at Orgasmic Cross Training, that is not much louder, but it's stronger. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're sensitive and you like the lighter touch, fine. If you want more, the Pulse Queen has a pulse plate technology that kind of penetrates down into the tissue, which is
Mm-hmm.
also very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great about these is that you basically rub them all on the outside
Mm-hmm.
and it gets all that tissue all warmed up and gets that little teardrop of
Mm-hmm.
erectile tissue plumped up so
Mm-hmm.
that when you have intercourse, when your partner enters you, it feels so exquisite
Mm, love that.
and have all the orgasms you want before penetration, because the more of them that you have from this vibration, the more that you'll be able to begin to cross train to having orgasms from a penile stimulation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this has a point on both ends, so
Mm-hmm.
it's very nice as well. And they're really, really a great tool to
Mm-hmm.
use to get that lift that we're looking
Yeah.
for
Again, back
conception.
to that, given that we know that people, women may
Yep.
be uncomfortable at first. I think the just the very notion of doing it yourself so that
Yeah.
you know what is pleasurable to you now, because
Yeah.
it may grow and change. You've got that sort of sense of self-care, self-agency of like, okay, this is what I like right now. And
Mhm.
then you share it with your partner so that your partner can also literally come into your space of, oh wow, I get to turn you on this way. I mean,
Yeah.
what a gift to give your partner the knowledge of what is turning you on, what is really, your thing right now, knowing that it's never fixed. It's always, it may
No.
never be fixed, may it always be changing. That's the nature of being human, is that we grow and change and evolve or come back to, or yeah, there are many ways to experience intimacy.
I'm glad you said that, Susan,
Yeah.
because a lot of women feel like everything should be the same. Well, it worked the last time. How come it's not working this time? Because that was a different day. You were at a different place in your cycle. You had different amounts of sleep. You ate some junk food or whatever you did. You're just a different
Hmm.
person every single moment. Even
Hmm.
within the scope of a single lovemaking date,
Hmm.
you are going to change throughout that date. You might start
Hmm.
out thinking to yourself, I'm about as far away from my turn on as I could be. But you lay down and you
Hmm.
let your husband give you a yoni massage. You
Hmm.
connect with him. You let him hold you. You talk about your day. You get things off your chest. You kiss a little bit. You lay
Hmm.
down and you get this yoni massage. And then, 15 minutes in, you're like, oh my God,
I'm
now I want
waking
him
up.
so
That's right.
much.
That's right.
I'm gonna, maul him now. Like it changes
Yes.
on a dime for
Yes.
us, especially as women, because we're
Yes.
so cyclical,
Yes.
even though
Yes.
men are very cyclical too.
Hmm. I want to if just take a second, because I know sometimes people, listeners hear a word and think, oh, that word is not my word. So if
Yeah,
the
tell
word
me.
yoni, for
Hmm.
instance, is something that, just as a name, as a definition, just doesn't resonate with you, name it whatever you want. You like you name your own body parts,
Yeah.
whatever you want. If somehow that word yoni, that Eastern Indian description doesn't resonate with
Hmm.
how you live your life or how you see yourself, name it whatever you want. We still have it.
Yeah.
Whatever you name it, we still have it. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that nobody feels like, okay, this part of the conversation isn't for me, because it's for everyone.
There's a word that's very popular with the people who use my pleasure protocol, which I wanted to tell you about as well.
Mhm.
Did I send this to you
You
yet?
did not, but please do, and please
Let's get
speak
it
to it.
done. I will do it. So, for a lot of women, they feel like there's not enough, brain body connection to their own genitals. They feel like maybe they're a little numb, or they feel some shame, or they feel some pain. Not
Mhm.
everything is pleasurable. But
Mhm.
you can activate pleasure in all that tissue through loving touch over time, such that it becomes all pleasurable to be
Yeah.
touched, and everything kind of feels orgasmic over time.
Mhm.
And one of the best ways to do that is to use what I call my pleasure protocol, which is essentially three different things that work synergistically together. They're kind of like a symphony of pleasure, and it's a ritual. And
Mhm.
you may have noticed by now that the way that I'm approaching your sexuality is to, in some ways, ritualize it as a moment of pleasure taking
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
That
It's
it's
sacred.
not a transactional intercourse kind of a thing. And so the pleasure protocol can add to this experience for you. And frankly, men are very good at using tools and doing protocols. You'll be
Yeah.
surprised at how much your husband enjoys this. It's
Mhm.
a three-part system. The first part are these little cocoa butter vaginal inserts,
Mhm.
and they come CBD free or
Mhm.
with CBD, and that's
Mhm.
your decision as to which you
Mhm.
want. The endocannabinoid system is a pleasure healing pathway,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
many women really appreciate the CBD ingredients, but you don't have to have them in there. There's
Mhm.
both options. And the cocoa butter melts inside the vagina and coats the vaginal mucosal lining, and it kind of makes it feel very rich and luxurious, and you feel the lubrication. It's
Mhm.
much better than trying to
Very
get like an
silky.
oil
Yeah.
up in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so nice. And
Mhm.
then there's an awaken arousal oil. You put a couple of drops on the outer part, the vulva, the
Mhm.
outer labia, the mons, the inner
Mhm.
labia, the
Mhm.
clitoral structures. And that sends signals to your brain that start to awaken that tissue. That's why it's called awaken arousal oil. It's kind of like a pre-lubricant.
Mhm.
And then the sex oil goes on top for all the slide and glide you need. Apply as much as you need every day that you make
Mhm.
love.
Mhm.
And just the whole idea of kind of feeling that moisture in your vagina,
Yeah.
and then putting on the arousal oil before he starts to give you the Yoni
Mhm.
massage or whatever you want to call
Right.
it.
Right. Right. Uh-huh.
And then when you have intercourse using the sex oil, all of that is so nice, and it's so loving, and it's almost like an anointing.
Yes,
And
I
it's
was thinking
really
there's something
beautiful.
very sacred about the ritual of like we're approaching this
Yeah.
with love,
Yeah.
with desire, with connection, and so going through these steps, it's not about again checking off the checklist. And if there's a way, if there's a need in one's life or one's coupledom that just start yourself, then do. But I think I want to. I think I may have just heard what you might have been trying to convey. Don't shortchange the interpersonal connection opportunities by getting so ready that you're like, okay, now let's go, because the whole experience is about connecting from the heart, using all of
Yeah.
your senses to have this intimacy be more than intercourse.
And you know what the women who use the pleasure protocol most often call their yoni or vulva? Their flower.
Oh, well, it is. It is very much a rose, an unfolding of the petals.
It is. It
Yeah,
blossoms
yeah.
with the right love, ritual, stimulation, and appreciation,
Oh,
and
that is.
attention and time.
Mm, mm,
Back to the 20 minutes.
mhm.
So yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Flower. And that's what triggered it for me was I wanted to tell you about the pleasure protocol. So I will give you that. That's at
Okay.
pleasureprotocol.com, and I will
And
make sure I get that link for you too.
yep, and all of these will be in the show notes. So you can always come back, subscribe, reference, and check it out as often as you need, and send your friends to this as well. Because really, I think that we have become so nuclear, so isolated,
Yeah.
even in our intimate relationships, that we don't realize that somebody, our dearest friend or sister, or someone or colleague, someone who we love so much could just benefit from knowing about all of this. I think the more we commit to ourselves and the people we love to be connected, and to love and to be intimate, however that takes place, it's just going to heal not only your fertility, it's going to heal the world, frankly. I know that
I
sounds very
know.
esoteric, but I do believe
No.
that that is what is so. That is what John Lennon's saying about all those years ago, back to the
No.
revolution days. And I don't mean the old, ye old revolutionary days. I mean the one that at least I lived through. So.
Me too.
Before we wrap up, because I want to be
Yeah.
very respectful of your time and the listening audience's time, I know that we live in a time-space continuum. Are there any ideas or suggestions or areas that you want to highlight that we want to make sure that you leave the listening audience with?
Yes.
Good.
This is the last thing that I want to tell you about, and I think it could be really helpful. You need to have a lot of intercourse right now. And we don't have very good societal perspectives on what intercourse can be like and how to create female-led pleasurable intercourse.
Mhm.
Mostly what we see in the movies is male lens
Mhm.
and of course porn, which is well, like anti-female, frankly.
Mhm.
So I want to give you one last group of techniques because here's what's really interesting. The most common thing that happens to couples during their attempts at fertility intercourse is that it becomes very transactional and unsatisfying because you gotta do it, and
Mhm.
then it's all that pressure. And
Mhm.
so
And once ejaculation occurs, it's like, okay, let's go, make dinner or something like that. There's a forgetting of what you're doing there in the first place.
exactly.
Mm.
And to keep your desire high for each other is a very simple equation, if you will. It's the trust and safety and surrender that you have because you love your partner and you know that they'll keep you safe. So you've got that with novelty and variety.
Yeah.
And this is the antidote to the boredom, to the like, okay, we just got to do it and get it done with. And that is that you can actually take your fertility journey as a learning and growing experience to expand your sexual skills and pleasure together as a couple. And I have been studying because what almost ruined my marriage was that I wasn't having orgasms from intercourse. And I had intercourse with my husband for a dozen years. I never had an orgasm. I stopped wanting to have sex with him. It almost ruined my marriage. So we
Mm.
decided to learn how, and that's how I became a sexpert. So I know a
Mm.
lot about orgasmic
Mm.
intercourse.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
have boiled and distilled the knowledge into 10 erotic play dates for couples to learn how to have highly orgasmic and pleasurable intercourse.
Love
It's
this.
at orgasmicintercourse.com. I will give you the link.
Okay.
And it's essentially things that will never dawn on your husband because if he only thinks that sex is like,
Mhm.
it's a bunch of things he can do with his penis, and there's a bunch of things that you can do with your vagina
Mhm.
during intercourse that make intercourse feel incredible and orgasmic for you.
I love this.
So you can just say, okay, well, we're going to have a lovemaking date. I'm in my fertile window and I've decided I want to try glissando. Let's try glissando. Or I'd like to try the heart tongue method. Can we try that? Or
Mm.
I'd like to try whatever. I've got 10 of them there for you.
Mm.
So
Beautiful.
when you introduce variety and novelty into desire, into trust and safety,
Mhm.
you get increased desire.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
that's how you don't run off the tracks and end up like my friend who
Yeah.
never had sex with her husband again. You
Mhm.
stay not only on the tracks, you get on what I like to call the upward pleasure spiral,
Yes.
where your intimacy, your sexual pleasure keeps getting better and better and better the longer you're together.
I
And
love that.
I've been on that upward pleasure spiral since I learned these techniques 20 years ago and started writing about them. And I, at 63, am having the best sex of my life by far.
That's
And you
beautiful.
can too. And this is how you get started.
I love this, Susan. It's so funny when you talked about I don't know what word you said, but I instantly had the vision of Candyland. Remember that childhood game that we
Yeah.
all loved, and it was always about, going from place to place. It was a new adventure and a new character, and maybe a little challenge to get through. That we love it still. I was going to say loved in the past, but we still love it because it's really who we are. So I love that you have created. I'm going to call it a game, but it's not, it's more than a game, right? It puts the fun back into lovemaking. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and the sense of adventure that you're discovering something new together is just beautiful. So
Yeah.
thank you again. Once again, we'll be adding that to the show
Good.
notes because I think folks are going to be really needing to come back and re-listen and reference and Christmas is coming. As I probably shouldn't be giving dates because I know a podcast is supposed to be eternal, but some holidays coming. If it's not Christmas, then it's going to be Valentine's Day or Easter or summertime or whatever. So for whatever's the next holiday when you're listening to this, get yourself a gift, get your partner a gift, and start enjoying being human, fully human, sexual expression beings. So I feel
Yay.
so very happy for this conversation.
Good.
I have to believe that the listening audience is also saying, wow, thank you. Thank you. This is
Mhm.
no, we're not just talking, eggs and labs and sperm and timing and IVF and all of these other things, that may be part of the conversation. There are many ways in which we grow families, and none of them should exclude intimacy. So,
Right. And your
yeah.
kids need you to be intimate because
Mhm.
one of the things that I hear the most from people is my parents never showed any intimacy.
Mhm.
I know they had sex as they had me, but they
Mhm.
never touched
Yeah.
each other. They
Yeah.
weren't, they weren't they just didn't seem like they were sexual, and it always made
Mhm.
me feel bad because they never told me anything or showed me
Mhm.
anything. And I say to
Mhm.
them, your parents did the best they could do.
Right.
It was a different time.
Mhm.
And your sexual development is part of your personal growth. It's your
Mhm.
responsibility.
Exactly. It's your responsibility. And if you want the future to change, then you change the present. So there
Exactly.
you go. Oh, I cannot thank you enough. I look forward to having you back for more conversations because I'm sure
Anytime.
we could go in many different directions with this. I know this was the high level. And so I'm looking forward for the listeners to learn a deeper dive in whatever is appealing to them. And again, just thank you so very much, Susan. It's a delight.
Thank you, Susan.